welcome to today's MEP office hours. This is the very first office hours for APAC and EMEA. Sorry for the bit of delay. We had some trouble connecting to the ReadyTalk line, but thank you everybody for coming. Can we have all the MEPs raise their hands in the meeting? All right. We have Jason Lawrence, who's the MEP. We have Johan Yu and Rakesh Gupta. Guys, can you give an intro about yourself? Let's go one by one. Johan, can you unmute yourself and give an intro about yourself and what area you're concentrating on? Hello, Jason. Can you hear me? Yes. Looks like there's an issue. Just give me one minute.
Shiv, can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, good.
Hi, Shiv. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Awesome. Jason, can you repeat that? I think now the audio is in through.
Hey, Shiv, is everyone unmuted?
Looks like I can just see just 4 people on the audio, not everybody else.
Okay. Josh is here.
Yep. Hey, Joshua. Joshua, can you introduce yourself and then probably we can get started, and while the other people dial in?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Joshua Hoskins. I'm a Salesforce.com MVP. Work for Aperia as a solution architect, and happy to be here today. So thanks, guys, for joining for the first APAC EMEA office hours. Glad to have you.
Awesome. So, guys, meanwhile, everybody connects. We ask questions. So, if you have any questions, could you please type them up in the chat, and we can go at it one by one. Looks like we're still waiting on some questions. Just to confirm, if you have issues connecting to the audio channel, could you please dial in? You don't have the voice over IP. You'll have to dial in through your phone on the number that's on the screen. We have a couple of questions coming in. Let's just see if all the MVPs on the call are promoted.
And then if you guys do have audio, go ahead and unmute yourselves, and you guys can ask your questions live as well.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions. Let's take one of them. The first question is, how do we have an integration with Salesforce and Team Foundation Server? Asked by Giri. Gary, if you have audio, do you want to explain a bit more about the premise?
Hi, this is Giri here. Thank you for this session, which is quite useful, and we look forward for many more sessions. And my question is pertaining to how do we go about integrating the Team Foundation Server, where we come from a development background and we have all our repositories. Code repositories are residing, and from there we do a build deployment using Jenkins after checking out and so on. But the facility that we are looking for our developers is to update the TFS right from the Salesforce app itself for any status updates, and it will also help us, our validation team. So with respect to that, we wanted to try that integration from Salesforce to TFS directly. So if you give some tips on how to go about it, or if you have any solutions already in place, would help us, please.
And just to be clear, what's TFS?
Team Foundation Server, which is a repository configuration management system provided by Microsoft.
It's like Git.
Like GitHub.
Microsoft,
yep.
Part of it. Yeah. SVM version of Git.
Yeah, this is Josh. I've actually never done that before. I've always recommended either Git or Subversion. So if there's any other MVPs that have experience in Microsoft solution, that's the first time for me.
So this is Shiv. I've worked with TFS before, and TFS already provides you integration with Jenkins. So if you already have Jenkins in it, you can integrate it and then use the AND packages to deploy to Salesforce. But the part where you want to directly integrate or pull in the data from, or pull in the code from Salesforce to SVM, I still think will have to be done through the IDE. You will have to connect your Eclipse ID and download the metadata and then push it into your TFS server, from which you can then automate using Jenkins. But apart from that, you will have to go with the normal IDE procedure. Does that help, Gary?
The first part which you described is something we already do it for our standard deployment. Before we move to the prod, we use the stages like tests as part of the CI, and we do using the Jenkins. Here, the question is more towards from giving a facility to the user, because the developer who always is in cloud has to update the TFS for many status on his development process. So we are just trying to see an interface from Salesforce directly to the TFS status updates to display the updates in Salesforce, as well as to update it so that the Scrum Master would be able to take up the status of the progress of development.
Makes sense. So you want to pull the data from TFS for certain issues and then have an interface in Salesforce, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've come across that, but I think if TFS provides some kind of API, which I know Jenkins does, you can use REST calls to the TFS server and get the details, and then you'll have to build it out on your own, I think. I've not come across a solution that does that for TFS,
okay,
but you can certainly build it out.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
We have one more question, I think. Yeah. Ankit Agarwal, how can we customize the view for Salesforce Community with standard functionality of Salesforce? Maybe MVP is going to take a swipe at that. Question is, how can we customize the view for Salesforce Community with standard functionality of Salesforce? Ankit, if you're there, do you want to add more detail to that?
Hey, this is Josh. I can start. So standard communities with the native piece is essentially, when you create a community, it gives you the opportunity to provide a header, a footer, and also a style sheet. And when you then log on, you get the tabs just as you do today inside of Salesforce, and it's pretty much an application. And so that would be the standard communities, sort of like the old partner portal SKU that they used to provide. And that's the way to configure communities, and those are the customizations that you have. I think there's a little bit more to it, but I've seen that done recently.
Ankit, did that help answer your question? I get some chat from him. It says, I need to customize the full view, not the header and footer.
The form view and the header and the footer. So then you might want to check into actually doing a tab with a visual force page. So native out of the box is native. If you need to customize anything that's not the header and that's not footer and not sort of a list view page, you'll have to break out the visual force with customization.
I think if you want to have very specific customizations, as Josh said, WEF is the way to go. Did that solve your question, Ankit? Okay, guys. More questions, or we're going to start picking up people? Vinod Kumar, do you have any questions? Yeah, we have a question from Karan Raj. What is Salesforce One Lightning Builder, and how to enable it in DevOrg? I can take a shot at that, and if any of the other MEPs want to follow up, more than welcome to. So there are two parts of it. One is the Lightning App Builder, and the other one is the Lightning Component. The App Builder is, again, right now a pilot. You can raise a case with Salesforce and ask. Usually they enable it on the sandbox level, but if you don't have a sandbox, you still want to try it, you can ask them to enable it in your dev org. There was a webinar yesterday where the Lightning Builder was demoed. So more information on the Lightning Builder is you can use the Lightning App Builder to build custom Salesforce One apps, which reside inside the Salesforce One itself and have functionality. So it's more of drag and drop. You'll have multiple components available in the future. You can have components that can be downloaded from the App Exchange that is built by other partners, and just drag and drop and come up with the functionality that you would like. So it's easy to, there's no coding involved, but you can still have Visual Force components. So that's mainly what the Salesforce One Lightning Builder is all about. Does that answer your question, Conrad?
Cool. The only other thing I would add is when you do raise a case with Salesforce, make sure you raise it from a production. Make sure you raise it from a production org. A lot of times people will raise. Sorry, I want to speak myself. A lot of people will raise it from a sandbox, and the sandbox cases are not visible to Salesforce.
Very good point. Okay. Anybody else with a question? Vishwa, do you have any questions?
Got a silent crowd out there today. Can everyone hear us still?
We have one question coming in from Shailendra. How to solve their APAC CPU time limit has exceeded? Repeat of the question. How to solve the APAC CPU time has exceeded? Guys, and if you want to take a look at it. Okay, I'm going to give my first view on that. So APAC CPU time limit is the error that you get if you have too much execution going on. Example, a long-running list, or not just in one trigger, but in the entire execution cycle, right? So you would have to figure out, you have limit classes to check the CPU time, but ideal best practice is to see if your lists are more well-maintained, your queries are more, how do I say, you can have better filters on your query so that they return a less number of record sets, and that's how you usually solve it. But just try to see in your code for the entire execution flow to see if there are any runaway code that just keeps looping, or there's a query that's too long. And that's ideally how you end up to that error, but take a look at that, and then that probably might solve your question. Did that answer your question, Shailendra? There's one more question from Kanraj again. What is the best way to debug APAC Salesforce email service? That's a good question.
Yep, I can take that. So the best way to debug the email handler is create the email handler, and then there's the areas that are passed into it. You can actually pass in those variables, but also your first line of code could be a system debug. So not really sure all the parameters that are passed into that handler, but you can certainly debug each one of those variables, your first 2 lines of that method, and write those out. So then after you do that, then you can enable debug logs for your user, and then when an email comes in, you'll be able to see the debug log in the debug log area of Salesforce. Did that answer your question?
Perfect. There's one more question from Anshul. If we transfer a contact, all the open tasks get transferred to. How can it change the contact owner, keeping the task owners intact? Getting the question? When we transfer the contact, all the open tasks get transferred to. How can I change the contact owner, keeping the task owners intact?
I don't think you can. I think that's a feature of Salesforce's task management. The only thing that you may be able to do, and I haven't done it myself, is to write a trigger to transfer them back again. But I don't think standard functionality can prevent it from happening.
I agree with that. Okay. I hope that answered your question, Anshul. I'm going to go to the next question. It's called, how do you view or display the governor limits in Salesforce for an org? So I'm just going to take that question, Gary. If you just want to display the limit, there's the limit class. That is if you want to check against certain limits. But apart from that, I'm not sure how else you want to use that. Do you want to give some idea to that, Gary? Or the use case?
Hi. This is something, again, from a development perspective. When we are working around the governance limit, we come across only when such exceptions are raised. So we would prefer to know, like, is there an Apex code where we can just write and try to display that, or is there a functionality already in Salesforce to display for us so that we can figure out how to raise that exception beforehand and then go forward?
Yeah, you can use the limits class. There's the limit system class that's available. It lets you check against certain limits, certain governor limits. So take a look at that. It can probably help you for this use case.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Okay. We have another question. Is there any way to download the dashboard as PDF file? The question is from Raj Kumar. Is there a way to download the dashboard as a PDF file?
Not natively, no. There's no native solution for downloading or printing dashboards as a PDF. I think there's an app on the App Exchange that enables you to sort of like distribute the dashboards to non-Salesforce users. That might be distributed as a PDF or an image. I can't remember. Otherwise, using the new analytics APIs, if you convert that dashboard into a Visualforce page, Joshua, do you know if you can actually render that as PDF?
Sorry, is on mute. Yes, you should be able to, anything that you can output on a Visualforce page, you should be able to render the PDF. Especially if you were to do some other customizations using maybe like the Google Charts API or things like that. Anything that fits on that page, go to render with the render as PDF function.
Just to add one point to that is just make sure that it's not rendered through the JavaScript. So if the Visualforce page that you're having and rendering into the PDF, if you're generating content using JavaScript, because JavaScript does not work on the PDF level. So I think that I faced a couple of issues with that. So just watch out for that too.
Yep, must be server side.
Okay, I'm going to take another question. From Ankit, how can we create workspace for different users on the same org within Salesforce? Not sure if I understand the question correctly. Ankit, could you add more detail to that? The question is, how can we create a workspace for different users on the same org within Salesforce? So what do you mean workspace? Do you mean the dev console? If that's the case, you can create a workspace, but I don't think it can be for different users. It can be just for yourself. So if
Ankit, you asking the question if you're doing some debugging or testing for a different user, so because you're a system administrator, it works, or the triggers or visual validation rules or whatever might be working successfully while you're in debug mode for you, but if you go to the workspace, how do you can see that for a different user? Is that the question?
Yes, he says yes. That's the question. And Jason's in the woods. You can hear like a crow or a bird. It's okay. I'm sitting in the Barcelona airport. Around the world. It's a toad. All right, we've got Jason said. Okay, I think we answered your question. You had another question around how can you display report data on a standard page layout. And that is absolutely possible now. And it's drag and drop, right? You just do it from the page layout. As long as you have a report with the correct record type, those reports will appear in the page layout editor where you can drag and drop.
It's available when you edit the layout on the left-hand side as report charts.
Jason, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, the drag and drop feature is just for charts, not for report data. So if you want report data, you'll need to represent that as a Visualforce page and put that on the page. If it's a chart, then yeah, that's certainly drag and drop, and the drill down capability of the chart to the reports works fantastically.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, we have one other question. Is there any easy way to mask email IDs in Sandbox? It's by Karan Raj. Karan, do you want to add more detail to that? What do you mean by mask email IDs?
Disable encrypted fields?
I think, yeah.
I think what you might be referring to is email fields. I mean, that's a really cool idea. Just because if you create a sandbox, you obviously get 100% of that email address on the contact field, or for that matter, any other custom object where you have an email address related. I think a killer app would be.
It does it, Joshua. It does it for users now. So does it not do it for contacts and leads?
It does not do it for contacts and leads. Yeah, it will do it from users, and it only does it on users because it needs to be obviously unique, and we don't want sandbox emails going out to those people. So for that purpose, it will do it. For leads and contacts, it won't. But it would be really cool if someone built like either an APAC script or look, I have a baby around the corner. an API script or maybe an app that would go through and discover all of the native objects and custom objects with a field type of email address, and then somehow scramble them so that if you had workflows or time-dependent workflows that were that got kicked off, they actually wouldn't hit and go to a live email address. But yeah, it's possible to do it. Most people usually do it with data loader, but it'd be really nice if it was like a dynamic script that did it, so that way you didn't have to worry about the different objects and things like that.
We have one of the same questions from Ankit, I think, how to display report data on Visualforce page. I think we already answered that. Jason already answered that. You can use the normal Visualforce charting or using the report APIs, the analytics API that you can use. Any other ads, guys? Did I miss that? Okay. Any other questions, team?
All right, so we start picking at everyone. Did everyone do their intros? Because I know I had some audio pop earlier.
I think a couple more people who can ask questions. Jagadish, Muthuswamy, do you have any questions?
I've got a question.
No.
Go for it.
Okay. Can you hear me all right? Got a question around visual flow. What's the difference between fast create and create record? If you're just creating one record, should you use the create record or the fast create? Obviously, I know there's an S object behind the fast create. I'm just wondering what are the other differences between those two flow elements?
I have to admit I'm not a Flow user, so who can take that? Johan, Rakesh, Chris, Ankit, anybody?
Hello.
Sorry, I'm not Flow either.
That's not good enough. Come on. We should all be flow experts. I'm only joking.
Who asked the question? Sorry, is that Chris?
No, it's Mike Gill, actually.
Hello.
Sorry.
Hello,
I knew that was a funny Englishman on the other side.
I'm just curious, really, because I've been struggling with a project that I've been on the last 3 days. And originally I was using a create record element in the flow, and I was getting all kinds of odd errors. As soon as I switched just to create one record, and as soon as I switched to a fast create, it worked. So I'm just kind of wondering what are the other differences around those two objects. From now on, I'm just going to use the fast create and just forget about the create record, but I just want to understand a bit more about that or get people's thoughts on that. But it's no flow experts, don't worry.
Never fair. You don't need flow experts. You just need people who can Google. So it says use the fast create element to create Salesforce records from a single S object variable or to create multiple Salesforce records from an S object variable. That's from a fast create. And then so there's one that says create record as well. So it says to create single records with field values from regular variables and flow resources such as constraints, formulas, screen fields, you have to use create record. So basically, if you're going to pass variables into bit, you have to use record create. But if you're just going to just create sort of an S object or create multiple records in a collection, you can use fast create. So fast create will obviously accept a collection, where create a single record will allow you to create that one single record, but it will allow you to leverage constants, formulas, and screen fields. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand those. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I guess it's the issue that I was having.
Sorry, Mike, are you using so is this a complex flow or is this a relatively simple one? Do you want to quickly describe what you're trying to do?
Basically, you're on an account page, you pop up a input screen that has a dynamic pick list of related contacts. You pick a contact and then you click next. That will then create a case in the background. The case has got a record type and a load of different kind of pick list fields, all that kind of stuff. But I'm passing in all of those variables to set that. It works fine if you're logged in as an administrator, but as soon as you log in with one of the custom profiles that the customer has, it doesn't work unless you give them view all data, which obviously you don't want to give them view all data. So if you try and create the same case in that custom profile, just in the normal way, you can create it fine. So I know that I'm populating all the fields, everything's correct, because it works as administrator, it works if I do it manually. So then if I switch to fast create and build out my S object and pass in the same set of variables I'm passing in on the create record, bang, it works for that custom profile. So it's almost like there's some other dependency on the create record that is stopping it from creating the case. But as soon as I move to fast create, I can create records. So I've switched completely to using the fast create for creating single records, and it's fine. So I'm not sure if it's a bug or if it's something I'm missing or there's some other subtle difference between the two. If that makes any sense.
It sort of makes sense, but the expert on flow, I would say, is Financial Force CTO or Bonnie Heiner from in San Francisco. So have you posted the same question into the Success community?
Not yet. I mean, I solved it last night by switching to fast create, just as kind of stab in the dark. Start move right now, but I was going to post it on one of the groups just to see why didn't it work with the create record? It should have worked. I just don't understand. So it might be worth posting into the community just so you can get a better understanding of what the difference is, or better understanding what the difference is between fast flow and fast create and create. So you've got a better understanding next time around when you use one over the other. Yeah. Cheers.
We've got an interesting question from Vinod about auto number fields. So Vinod, how big is your auto number field at the moment? If you think that it's going over the 30 character or 20 character limit, it sounds like a very big number. Whilst Vinod is typing that up, has anybody got any use cases for having a auto number field that's 30 characters or more in size?
Well, he says that it's characters and prefix suffix, so I don't think it's an auto number. I think it's an auto-generated alphanumeric character, which would make sense for 30 characters. So I think that just depends on your custom business requirement and how you derive what numbers and what letters it uses. But if you're talking about just a number, I think you would definitely want to cut that down for everyone's life. But if you're talking about alphanumeric, the auto generation on the native Salesforce is going to be very limited because it's going to be a standard prefix with obviously an incrementer, which is only new. It's an incrementer, and then you can also have some date elements in there as well. If you want anything outside of that, what you could do is you could just put your alphanumeric characters in one field and put your numeric fields in another field, and then you could merge them together in a formula field if you wanted to do something like that to build your string out. Outside of that, you're looking at Apex and putting your algorithm in Apex and applying that on create. Does that make sense, Vinod?
Let's take one other question that's asked by Ankit. How can I debug the values in the code without the debug log? I think that comes very close to the simulated breakpoints. You can have simulated breakpoints in the developer console. You can mark it against your code in the repository, and once the code executes, you can get the snapshot of the heap dumps and verify the values. But note that it's not like the debug or the breakpoints in the other language frameworks. This does not stop execution of the code in the cloud. It just captures a snapshot of the heap size at the heap dump at that time. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. Any other views on that, guys? Any more questions, guys? Or shall we give the time of the day back to people who joined in?
Sure. Let's give it a wrap. So thanks, guys, for joining. I think this is one of many sessions that will be truly beneficial to the community on the other side of the world. Been working for probably just a little bit over a year to get this started. So shout out to Shiv for just getting it done. We talked a little bit about Dreamforce, and it's finally happening. So it's good to see the MVP office hours really taking scale. Not only in the U.S., we've grown a lot, but also we're starting MVP office hours in Espanol, so in Spanish, and that will be in the coming weeks as well. I think one's already scheduled if it's not next week. So stay tuned. Be very active on the Answers community or the MVP offers chatter group. If you guys have any feedback or comments or ways that we can improve this session. First one's always a little weird, but we hope to be gaining momentum in the coming weeks and months, until we expand to maybe another geographic location. So thanks everyone for joining, and thanks, Shiv. Any other comments from Jason or Shiv? Thanks to the MVPs as well that are on. I haven't heard your voices, but very good to see you guys.
So when is the next sessions for this one?
Yeah. So I believe we want to schedule them biweekly. So that's what we do in the U.S. It just all depends on availability and participation. But normally they're on a cadence that is frequent, right? So what we don't want to do is we don't want to say, okay, we're going to have it once a month. We want to have it on a frequent basis. So I think biweekly is probably a good fit right now. And it's also opposite of the U.S. ones, just in case someone wants to have a question on the U.S. time zone as well. So the point is that, at least on an every week basis or every other week basis, you have an open line of communication where you can call and ask questions, which is an alternative to actually posting to the Success community where those answers and questions are not in real time.
I'm going to add in my thoughts. Joshua, thank you very much for helping to start this MVP officers in the APAC and EMEA. It's a very great initiative. I know we've been talking it throughout Dreamforce, and it comes to fruition right now. And thank you all the MVPs and people from Salesforce who joined in today for the call today. We're looking forward to more MEP officers continually, bi-weekly, as Joshua suggested. We're excited to have this started again. Thank you, everybody, for coming in.
Cheers, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.